Okay, with all this talk, this scary talk of insurrectionary proclamations, I decided to ask my guides for information I could share that would help. And so they told me this story about fishermen and fires. And the story is about a mob. It's about this group of mobsters who came to this realm with the intention of destroying everything. And they had a lot of different strategies for how to destroy everything, but mostly their strategies were non-strategies because they weren't militarily minded people. They were crash and burn minded people. They didn't really have plans. I mean, they had their 25 clowns, 25 years agenda, but they didn't really have like military plans. But these are, knuckle chuck people, right? These are people who like to engage in knuckle chucks. And so they were always looking for ways to do knuckle chuck things. And so they decided that the way that they could kind of really terror fright the people was to start fires everywhere. Lots of little fires everywhere. And so just today in Florida, there was a man picked up who has been accused of starting the fire that burnt down a large section of the city of Angels last year. And you may recall that there was a certain crystal gazer who did say that those fires were started intentionally by the mob, and that they were not an act of nature as many people were claiming. Of course, anyone who lived in the City of Angels knows what the season is for natural fires, and that was not the season, nor did they follow the pattern or path of a natural fire. And so this was a part of a strategy of terror fright where they were trying to create a lot of terror fright in the community. And so now we're starting to see some evidence of that. But this is an ongoing strategy, this idea of starting little fires everywhere. And the little fires that they were starting everywhere, they weren't always literal fires. Sometimes they were metaphorical fires. In fact, sometimes they were fires that were started with ice, because you can get burned by ice just like you can get burned by fire. But this is the thing that the people need to know, the people in the realm need to know about these fires. They're designed to create terror fright, and they're also designed to create destruction. And they're also designed to focus people's attention in particular directions. And so the mob started these little fires in lots of different villages, and they went over the they went and targeted the really big villages where they had the largest concentration of villagers. And in particular, they wanted to find villages with the largest concentration of villagers of a certain tone and hue. And they also wanted to target villagers who have leaders who wore blue hats. But that was really a formality because their ultimate goal was to destroy all the villages. They were just doing it in a particular order. And so although this was really scary for people and did cause a lot of the terror fright, one thing that was pointed out about these fires, that if anyone were to really pay close attention to the fires, you would realize that they are not indeed the kind of fires that can burn down the whole realm. And so anyone who knows about fires, if you're a fire keeper like me, you know that there are different types of fires that burn at different temperatures and that have different impacts. So for example, there are some fires that burn from point A to point B, and if A and B are really sufficiently far apart, the fire can cover a lot of territory. These fires are not that kind of fire. There are also fires that can be started in a grid, where fires are started in a grid-like pattern, and then they end up burning that entire grid. And then you can systematically burn grids, and that's another way to start with a small fire and end up with a very large fire. That is not the type of fire we are looking at. There's also a type of fire where you burn fires in a circle with the intention of having the fire move to the center. This is also not the type of fire they are starting. In fact, they are very small fires that are only burning kind of chaotically in small regions, and that they are not spreading to huge regions of these large villages. A block here, a couple blocks here, a lot of drama in some cases, big flames, in other cases, just smoke. But lots of little fires everywhere. And this gives people the impression of, oh my God, oh my goodness, fire, fire everywhere. What are we to do? And of course, a big reason for all of these fires is to pull all the villagers' attention away from that big pile of papers, which has a lot of truths on it, which is going to hurt the reputation of a lot of bigwigs, especially mobsters. And so what's important to notice is how poor the strategy is, how they're going after the big citadels first. And they're doing that for a dramatic impact. They want to go after these big citadels where there's lots of villagers living all close together, where they can grab a bunch of villagers and make an example of them. And it's just really important for the villagers to realize that this is a photo op, this is a stage, this is a performance. And yes, people are being harmed, there are people being sacrificed, but it's not what they want us to think it is. It's not the wholesale destruction of the realm. It's not a fire that's spreading like wildfire in a high wind from point A to B to C to T. That's not what's going on. It's lots of isolated little fires in big citadels in different parts of this vast, vast land. And one way to think about it is to think about a fisherman or a fisher person, an angler who's out fishing. And they take a really big boat and they bring a really big net and they go out and all they do is fill their net with lots of tiny fish. And then they take pictures and they show everybody, look at us, we're such amazing fisher people. Look at all these fish we caught. And of course, they want people to think that their ability to catch all of these little fish in their net implies that they could actually catch the big fish, like the sharks and the whales and the dolphins and the salmon and whatever other barracudas, whatever other fish they actually know people want. But they're not able to catch those, and they're only catching a net full of very small fish. But they're doing it to create drama, right? To create a certain impression, to make people think they are more powerful than they are. And so this is what the villagers have to do. They have to pay attention. They have to recognize that these fishermen are not capable of catching a big fish. And even if they can catch a whole net full of little fish in one part of the sea, it doesn't mean they can catch all of the fish in all of the seas, even if that's what they want us to believe. And the same is true with their newest talk of insurrectionary proclamations. They just don't have the boats. They don't have the fishermen. They don't have the nets to actually fish the whole sea. They can barely manage to start little fires in small little sections of very big citadels. And they don't have the capacity to start very big fires in very big citadels, much less fires that spread throughout the realm. And one of the crystal gazers, a certain empress, has been telling us this for the longest time, how they could barely manage one block in Portlandia, one block in one suburb in the city, in the Windy City, 2 blocks downtown in the City of Angels, 2 blocks. They haven't been successful in starting fires and keeping them going for any distance in any village throughout the realm. And why haven't they? Apart from their complete lack of manpower, equipment, and strategy and intelligence, they haven't been able to because the people are unifying. The people are coming together. The people are looking out for their neighbors. And so people aren't just saying, well, they didn't burn my house down, I'm good. People are saying, oh, my neighbor 10 blocks that way is on fire. I'm going to get my water hose and my buckets and I'm going to go help them over there. Because we are beginning to recognize that my neighbor's house is my house. And a fire anywhere is a fire everywhere. And there is no fire department we can call. We are the firefighters. And if we panic and become terror frightened, they win. But if we just remember those are just little fires and we are the water, then we win.